Shalom. Our Torah portion this week is Vaychi. Vaychi is the very last portion of the book of Genesis. As this portion opens, we find Jacob lying on his deathbed. He and his whole extended family had moved from the land of Canaan into Egypt, and that the family will remain in Egypt for the next several centuries, perhaps 4 centuries all told, until they are rescued by Moses during the episode of the Exodus. Now, what's interesting here is Jacob is still conscious enough to be thinking about his legacy. And what does he do? He assembles all of his sons around him, and he proceeds to bless each one of them. Now, it's not exactly blessings that he bestows upon them. What he does, in fact, is to describe, from his point of view, their most essential, central characteristic. Each son has a personality trait, that will be handed down to his descendants and will become the prominent personality trait of the tribe that will result from these sons. Now, what I'm interested in showing you today is what Jacob says to Don. Let's take a look at what he says. We look at Genesis 49, verse 16.
Dan Yadin Amo, Ke'echad Shiftei Yisrael. Dan will plead his people's cause as one of Israel's tribes.
Now, the name Dan, which will become the name of one of the tribes, has the meaning of judging. Dan is a judge. There are other derivations of this word. Dayan, for example. It means to make a judgment. It also has a meaning, and we see how it's translated in the Jewish publication Society Chumash. We see that it also means to plead the case of another. It means to cast judgment upon someone. It means to plead on their behalf. Later on, in the Bible, we find a whole class of people called the judges. It's another word with another root, a shofet. The shoftim were judges. Now, they were warriors on behalf of the Israelites. Undoubtedly, they were magistrates as well, adjudicating disputes, but they were warriors on behalf of their people. Now, it seems to me that there is a lesson about judging others implied in the ambiguity of the word Dan. We live in an era in which we're not supposed to be overly judgmental, and I suppose that there is wisdom in that. We shouldn't be overly judgmental about each other. However, there are times when we have to say this is right and this is wrong. We have to be judges of our own behavior. We also have to judge each other's behavior occasionally. We also have to judge whether our community or our nation, the country in which we live, are doing the right thing. Now, but how do you do this? How do you do this? I think that judgment always has to be delivered with a sense of pleading on behalf of the other person. It's not that we want to tear down the other person. We want to plead on their behalf. When we see a friend or a family member or our nation for that matter, or our community not doing the right thing, when we judge them, when we critique them, it's not that we want to tear them down. We want to plead on their behalf. We want them to be the best that they can be. When it says here that Don will plead his people's cause as one of Israel's tribes, what we learn in that statement is that Don didn't remove himself from the other Israelites. He judged the other Israelites as an Israelite, as one of them. He pleaded on their behalf. And so it's okay to critique each other. It's okay to be critical of ourselves, of each other, of our communities, of our nation, but we must always do so as someone who loves the person or the community or the nation that we are judging. Well, I hope that you will read this week's Torah portion, and given the fact that this is the last portion of the book of Genesis, we say Chazak, Chazak v'nitchazek. Be strong, be strong. Let us strengthen one another. Shabbat Shalom.